disaster.
Mark, there is no way.
It shows, for one, the government can't sell it.
Today, the revolts against waste, like the new set-top box giveaway. Former Treasurers Peter Costello and Michael Costa debate a budget already in strife. Tim Matheson tells the world what he hasn't told Julia. And our program psychologist analyses this.
Whoops.
I'm Andrew Bolt, and this is the Bolt Report. Hello and welcome to the show. I agree, the Gillard government's budget is a dud. The deficit's blown out to $50 billion, but we're still hiring more public servants. The government claims it's slashing spending, but then gives pensioners free set-top boxes. So I'm not surprised only 1 in 3 Australians think this budget is any good. But I am surprised by the anger at one good thing the government is trying, and that is to cut back on our handout mentality. Here's some scary figures. Things like schools, hospitals and old age pensions are paid for by the 14 million of us of working age, and especially the 8 million in full-time work. They're the workers who pay for the benefits that go to nearly 2 million others of working age. 800,000 people on disability pensions, nearly 600,000 on the dole, 90,000 on youth allowance and 450,000 on parenting payments. Put it this way, for every 4 people in a full-time job, there's 1 of working age on benefits. That's not affordable and not healthy. For one, it creates welfare ghettos, like the one in Macquarie Fields, where the poor and newly arrived grow up unconnected with the rest of us and resentful. Now, older Australians know a different Australia. Migrants of my parents' generation came to an Australia of the Great Snowy River Scheme, to a country that had work, expected you to work, and celebrated work, in films just like this. We didn't give away much free money then. But now, remember the $900 cheques this government sent out during its cash splash? The free insulation it installed for people who didn't even need it? Prime Minister Gillard is now trying to get more people off disability payments. She wants teen mums back in school after 6 months on benefits.
I don't want to see a situation where the economy is booming, but we still have long-term unemployed people who don't have a job, single mums who could work who don't have a job.
And she's cutting middle-class welfare, especially family support payments to families on $150,000. Look, it's still only as tough as tofu, but even these baby steps have caused outrage in newspapers and on Talkback from the very taxpayers who should be grateful. And the Liberals, who should support such cuts, are just exploiting the anger instead. The problem is simple. Those richer taxpayers screaming about losing benefits, they wouldn't be so cross if they hadn't seen so much of their taxes already wasted on people who won't work, or seen it wasted on one dumb scheme after another. Fuel Watch, the pink bats, overpriced school halls. This is really anger at Labor's waste, not its cuts. So my advice is cut again, but this time cut harder. Talking of waste, I thought the Gillard government had learned from its free insulation disaster, but here it comes again. This time offering people on full age or disability pensions a free set-top box, plus installation, so they can still watch their TVs when the signal switches to digital. Joining me to discuss this latest $300 million giveaway is Simon Bush, head of the Australian Home Entertainment Distributors Association. Simon, thanks for coming on. Now, the government is scared that as it switches the signal, pensioners will sit in front of blank screens. But whose job should it be to convert their TV, the pensioners or the government's?
Look, it's a good question. It's a very difficult policy setting to try and get right. On the one hand, they don't want pensioners sitting there on their Sunday morning not tuning into the Bolt Report when it switches from analog to digital. But on the other hand, they've got to deliver value for money and deliver good policies. So, but what we do know is, well, put it this way, there's not much information around this.
What's the best way to do this, right? I'm holding in my hand a $50 set-top box that we got from Dick Smith. Now, the government is not spending $50 on this, it's spending $350 to install these things. Is that too much?
Well, what we do know is that from the Majura switchover last year is that 36% of eligible households only claimed the household assistance scheme, in other words, the government subsidy. So 2/3 of those people in Mildura chose to do it themselves. So I think that speaks a lot. I think people would prefer to do it themselves where they can.
Well, that's some suspicion of the government, I would have thought. But listen, $350, right? Wouldn't it be cheaper, say, to hand over each pensioner, say, look, this is this beautiful free $200 TV that you can have, still gets your digital signals, and you install it for free. What about that?
Look, I think the Commonwealth has chosen a difficult policy response to this issue. It could well have followed the US model, which is give them a voucher, go to your local retailer and pick up your set-top box or your TV. They chose to go down and copy the UK example, which is this complicated policy mixture of getting installers going to your home. I think you're right, Andrew. It may well have been a far simpler and far easier mechanism to do a transfer payment, which the Commonwealth does very well, or simply hand over a voucher.
That's spot on, because if you hand over the cash, at least you don't wear the problem, as we saw with the free insulation debacle, of taking the responsibility for installers making a mess of it.
Look, that's right, and it's a far simpler thing. The Commonwealth Government is experienced in doing simple transfer payments. They're not good at doing complicated citizen and service delivery. That's what the states do well, not what the Commonwealth does well. And it's clear from recent days, from speaking to Gerry Harvey and Russ Coghlan, that they're not aware and haven't been engaged in the policy deliberations at this point in terms of implementation of these policies.
Yeah. Gerry Harvey's saying they could do this for half the price. I mean, this doesn't seem to have been thought through. And I want to ask you this. What message does it send to pensioners that have actually taken the responsibility themselves, put in their set-top box or bought themselves a new TV? Along comes the government with this offer of $350, they miss out.
Well, that's right. If they want to enjoy digital channels now, before the analogue switchover, they go and buy a digital TV or a set-top box, but they can only access the scheme 6 months prior to the digital switchover.
Simon Bush, thank you. Right after the break, I discuss the budget with our panel, former Liberal Treasurer Peter Costello and former New South Wales Labor Treasurer Michael Costa. And I'll ask them too, why does Malcolm Turnbull look so unhappy?